Also, quick question. So you were talking earlier about, speaking with a sponsee and, or really just people, like I know from my experience, it's hard for me to make outreach calls. And I was wondering what advice you provide to your sponsees or people who, reach out to you in terms of being more comfortable reaching out to other people at meetings instead of maybe like the same, like one or two people, whether it's your sponsor or like someone else, but like maybe being more comfortable if those people aren't available to, reach out to the other 50 plus people at any given, meeting on those phone lists. Is that just another wonderful way to work the program of practicing boundaries with other people that you haven't had a chance to work boundaries with, or I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
Thank you for the question. When I'm talking to my sponsees at the beginning of our relationship, I give them a sheet of paper that talks about, this is my boundaries for this relationship. These are the sorts of things that I would like my sponsees to be doing. And we have a conversation about where they're currently at. So the suggestion that I make is 5 reach out calls a day. But some of my sponsees, for them, that's a big problem. And so we start with, all right, how about 1 reach out call a day? And let's build this up. And for me, it's usually the same people, day in, day out. But in the last year or so, I've got my major reach out crew. Like, these are my dailies. I'm going to text them in the morning as I'm waking up, like, hey, happy whatever the hell day it is. It's looking beautiful, or it's looking gloomy. I hope your day's going great. Blah, blah, blah. Sometimes they get back to me, sometimes they don't. But I'm starting to mix in some new people as well. Because the response that I get from the reach out calls lets me know, whether they have time for reach out, whether they have, the wherewithal to return calls. Some people, oh man, I got busy, so I'm sorry I'm getting back to you 2 weeks later kind of thing. Whereas other people, I get a response throughout the day. And the point is to make the calls. Whether the call actually connects, not important. Because I get the calls back when the people are ready to make the calls, and sometimes I'm able to pick the phone back up, and maybe we play phone tag. And when I picture like reaching out and, I got you. All right, you got, it's very joyful for me and my inner child. But higher power usually arranges things for me where I get the calls back right in the middle of a thought of like, I'm not good enough, or this is terrible and it's never going to change, or whatever. And so I get that reach out. Oh, hey, what's going on? Oh, well, I just happen to have been thinking about this thing, and they've got positive messages for me. When I include texts, I'm usually getting 8 messages out a day. And things are different for me in the summer when I'm not working versus when I am working. I think I've answered the question. Thank you for asking.
What do you do when you get stuck? When you have a hard time doing things that you
What do I do when I get stuck when I'm having...
And yeah, when you have a hard time doing things that you know about.
That's a fantastic question. I'm going to answer with an analogy. I've recently started removing myself from my place and walking myself over to the gym and convincing myself to lift heavy objects only to put them back down again. And my brain says, this is stupid. Nothing is being accomplished right now. And for me, that thought has been the thing that's always kept me away from the lifting of heavy objects. Like, this is dumb. Why do it? But as I've done this every 3rd day, I've noticed that every 3rd or 4th time I've gone in, so like every half month, I'm moving the thing down and adding a little bit more weight. Like, I'm not seeing anything new in the mirror, but I am seeing the ability to lift heavier and heavier objects. So for recovery, if I don't want to do it, I don't have to do it. But I have also seen that when I do it, I might not be able to see in a daily kind of way, look, I'm getting healthier, but I do get to see that I'm using the tools more often, and it's getting easier to sit down with the journal and write how I'm feeling. It's easier to reach out to my sponsor and just talk about how my day is, or talk about this thing that normally, years ago, I would have held in and said to myself, no one wants to hear this, it's too terrible, once they hear it, they're all going to judge you and dump you and it'll be terrible. Now I'm sharing stuff that is, the old me would say, this is shocking kind of stuff. And I still got far to go, but I can do more emotional lifting. And I look forward to being able to do even more emotional lifting in the future. I hope that answered your question.
What are some of the most useful tools you find day to day?
Day to day, prayers are huge. I've memorized the opening, the closing prayer, the serenity prayer, the third and seventh step prayer. I also have two very special prayers to me that I start and end my day with. When I wake up in the morning, the very first thing I try to think is whatever. And right before I go to bed, I get in the bed, I pull my covers up, and I say, enough. And that helps me to, as I start my day, say, well, whatever happens, it's up to higher power. It's not anything I'm doing. And at the end of the day, I used to have like, oh my gosh, what if this happens tomorrow? And what if I'm not ready? And blah. Enough. We're done with that thinking. It's bedtime now. Let's focus on getting a good night's sleep kind of thing. The reach out calls, which I've been talking about, are huge. The journaling, especially when I'm in despair or worry or whatever, are huge. But probably the biggest thing has been my new understanding of what I call committee theory, which is identifying that there are a lot of voices in my head. There's a judge, there's a prosecutor, there's my inner child, there's my, finger-shaking parent, there's my perfect parent. There's a lot of voices in there. And as I learn to identify each one, I learn how to deal with those people. My finger-shaking parent, you don't have my best interest in mind. You're my parents from the past. Thank you for sharing. Let's hear what my perfect parent has to say. Oh, you're doing the best you can. Everything's going to be fine. You can't be perfect. Nobody's perfect. Thanks, perfect parent. Inner child, which of those voices did you enjoy more? I like perfect parent. Yeah, me too. High five, inner child. And just being playful with those voices, but also putting them in line. As the secretary of a meeting, as the chair of LA CODA, as a person who organizes different events, I've gotten experience with different people are going to have different ideas. So different people in my head are going to have different ideas. How do I make sure that the best group conscience, which we talk about in Tradition 1 and Tradition 2, can be found?
In non-CODA situations, if you notice yourself in a character defect, do you have any suggestions? Or if one notices themselves in a character defect, do you have any suggestions for resetting and using code principles?
I have many suggestions, and I don't know when our time is going to be up, but I'll just talk until someone tells me to shut up. How do I, when I notice character defects in my daily life, reset? I mentioned before my prayers of whatever and enough. If I notice myself in a character defect, I get to say, all right, enough of that. I've been doing this. Sometimes today I do, and a lot in the past I did, go immediately into shame. Oh my gosh, Jay, you've been in recovery X number of years, and you should be better than this, and what the hell are you doing? No, enough of that too. I made a mistake. It's okay. I'm human. Everybody makes mistakes. I get a choice of how I proceed from here. So, whatever, that happened. Let's move on from the best case situation. In some cases, I'm so out of it that I just need to tell the person that I'm talking to, like, I find myself in a shame spiral, and because of the way my life is right now, most of the people in my life understand that sentence. Like, I need to take a walk, or I need to go journal. Can I get back to you later? And they'll be like, oh wow, cool, yeah, good for you for having that self-awareness kind of stuff. As opposed to in my old relationships with people who didn't understand it. What the hell are you talking about? Shame spiral. You're fine. Keep talking to me. Keep being in my universe. Blah, blah, blah. Like, the journaling helps. The self-talk that I was talking about with the committee helps. Being understanding of myself. But a lot of times, just that enough whatever can get me back on track and get me back to, okay, what's the best thing for me and for the relationship right now? I had more tools, they're gone. So that's what I've got right now. Yeah.
What sources and resources do you draw on for doing committee work?
What sources and what resources do I draw on for doing committee work?
How did you learn how to do committee work?
Okay. So I started at LA Coda, and one of my old behaviors is controlling things by being in charge. And LA Coda makes that really easy. Vice president is a great job to start with, because your job is to literally sit there until the chair can't do the chair's job, which is almost never. Because as codependents, we tend to show up to our engagements. And so for a year, I sat there and just listened to how it worked. And I watched what the chair was doing. And I said to myself, okay, yeah, that was good. I'm going to do that in the future. Or, ooh, that makes me feel weird. I'm going to talk to my sponsor about that, that sort of thing. LA Coda has a fantastic set of guidelines. I read those. I internalized them. I was on the guidelines revision committee, and I learned about what the guidelines actually mean. So basically a step study of the guidelines. That was really helpful. And I also, this is outside literature, but I think it fits because we talk about it in the LA Coda meetings. Reading Robert's Rules of Order, the short version, was really helpful. And I got to talk to somebody about how Robert's Rules are actually trying to embody the traditions and finding the traditions in Robert's Rules and taking what I liked and leaving the rest.
I think you misunderstood my question.
Clearly I did.
What I meant about what you enter committee.
I'm sorry. Okay. Can you ask it again?
That was a good answer.
Okay.
Where did you learn and what resources do you use for the inner committee work?
Honestly, trial and error. There are a lot of non-CODA books out there, which I can talk to you about during the break. There's a lot of good stuff about the inner committee in the FAQ, Chapter 5 of the Blue Book, that I can point out to you during the break. But really, it's trial and error and listening to other people talk about their work and seeing how it applies to me. Thank you for the question.